Hi. In my earlier talk about sibling rivalry, I mentioned how it's a good idea to involve children in resolving their own differences. Learning to use a problem solving approach when there are conflicts, either with siblings, with friends, or between parents and children, is a good step for families. This talk will share some reasons why this is important and will explain the steps in the process that you can model for your children and teach them to use effectively on their own. Much of this information is based on the work of Ross Greene, Jane Nelson, Myrna Shore, Fred Rogers, Stanley Greenspan, and others. With the best of intentions, when we try to change children's behaviors, we tend to tell them what to do or what not to do. At our very best, we usually model or explain or coach. Sometimes we just ignore small things. And at our worst, we punish or exclude. We usually carefully explain why our idea is the right one. But all of these approaches, we tend to rely on have a common theme. We, the adults, are doing the thinking for the child. By making a real shift in our approach to discipline to help children to think and problem solve about their own feelings, their own actions, and their own behaviors, we can teach children not what to think or do, but how to think about and resolve problems more successfully. As early as age 4, most children can learn to think about their feelings and the feelings of others. They can think about the consequences of their actions, and they can think of alternative ways to solve problems. Children who have learned to use these skills have been seen to become much less easily frustrated or impatient, and are much less likely to lose their tempers. They become more caring. They are more likely to share and take turns, and they are more able to make and sustain friendships. Children of all ages will need some help and teaching to learn to cope with the many, many complex and very strong feelings that usually underlie misbehavior or conflicts. These are the steps that your family can use to work on resolving the various conflicts, arguments, and struggles that so often come up in families and in small and large groups of children. This process is sometimes referred to as collaborative problem solving, or CPS. There are three main steps. You might use the image of a traffic light to be sure to cover all three steps with your children. First, red light, stop and breathe and calm down. Second, yellow light, talk and listen about what happened and what each person is feeling. Third, green light, kids develop a solution that everyone is comfortable with. So, the first step when there is conflict or intense or challenging behavior is to stop and get calm, the red light. Everyone needs to calm down. Parents, siblings, friends, cousins, uncles, and aunts, whoever is directly involved in whatever actions have happened to create the problem. No one can listen or think clearly when emotions are high. A calming down period is essential in this process. It may mean separating people for a short time. You can coach everyone to take a few deep breaths, at least 3 slow breaths. Breathe in slowly through your nose, hold your breath briefly, and then push the air slowly out through your mouth. You might set a timer for just a few minutes to make sure everyone has some time to breathe and calm down. Some children have found that brief meditation or sitting still with their eyes shut helps them to calm. Some may just need to go outside for a little fresh air for a minute. There may be other strategies that your family has found helpful in calming things down. Think about those with your kids. You might brainstorm at a separate time, not when things are tense, with each child, the best way he or she knows how to calm down when they're upset or angry, like hugging their teddy bear or wrapping up in a blanket or something else that they like to do that helps them to relax. Then, once all is calm, it's time to regather and talk about what happened and figure out what to do about it. Yellow light. You might have a predetermined place to regather when the timer rings, like the kitchen table, or you might just say individually to each child involved, it's time now to figure out what just happened and to think about how to make things better. Step 2, the yellow light, requires making time to listen to the feelings of each person involved and for each one to talk about what they feel, want, and need. This is a critically important step. Every person, no matter what age, needs to be supported to put into words their feelings and needs and how they think and feel about the situation that ended in an argument or fighting or some other hurtful behaviors. Parents first need to double check that everyone is indeed calm enough to talk and listen and think. Parents invite each person to talk about their feelings and concerns one at a time. This is not the time for parents to take sides or to try to fix the problem for the children. Parents can model and use empathy and help clarify everyone's feelings and concerns, including their own if they were directly involved in the problem event. It's best to talk about feelings first and to acknowledge each child's inner experience. Most children aren't used to talking about or even thinking about their deepest feelings and thoughts. It's important to use non-judging, factual phrases like, what happened? What's the matter? I've noticed that you've been taking things away from Joey more often lately. I wonder what you've been feeling. Or questions like, maybe you're feeling angry at me. If that's right, you can tell me about it. I wonder how Joey felt when you took his blocks away. How did it feel when he hit you? Some other phrases or questions you might try include, was everyone okay with what you did? It's important to stay neutral, to avoid making assumptions, to avoid blame, to listen, acknowledge, and clarify each child's own experience of the event. These types of communications invite the child to talk, so that rather than feeling defensive or blamed or shamed, they will feel that you really want to understand and help them with their feelings and their behaviors. It's very important not to interrupt the child who is speaking and to give each child enough time and support to express themselves in their own way. This is a time to go slowly and give everyone your time, your caring, and your listening. You can reflect on what you hear the child saying and provide reassurance and a sense of safety around his learning how to cope with his own possibly frightening and powerful feelings and actions. Remember that sometimes children just react from a triggered, deep down emotion and they aren't really thinking about what they're doing. That's why this problem solving approach usually works when everybody gets the hang of how to do it. This approach teaches everyone to talk about feelings and to think together about what happened to cause the conflict. Thinking about their own feelings and reactions is an important lifelong skill that children will learn through this process. The final step is probably the hardest one, but it is important to take the time to do. Figuring out how to solve the problem conflict in a collaborative way. This is the green light in the traffic light. This is the time, having heard all the feelings, needs, and views of the event from everyone involved, for each person to suggest a way to solve the problem or the conflict or to make amends, just to fix it somehow. One at a time, each person involved shares an idea or a solution or an outcome that they think is fair. You might write down all the ideas. All ideas are important and should not be criticized. Encourage even silly things so that kids don't feel judged, but welcomed to participate. It is very important that the parents do not solve the problem for the children, but merely offer some of their own ideas if they're asked for, and support the children with empathy and careful listening. Maybe refocusing on the problem if the children get off on a different topic, and coaching when needed for very small ones. To help children think of alternative solutions, you might use phrases like, "Can you think of something different you could do or say? Is there a way to fix this problem? Let's think this through together and see if we can figure something out. What would be the fairest thing for everyone? What else could you do to make this better? What do you think you could do to make this better? What do you think Joey could do to make this better?" It is so important to hear and respect all ideas offered during this brainstorming stage. Sharing your concerns is important too. This helps children to hear concerns that they may not have thought of. For example, you might say, "I hear that you want to go to the park or the beach or the store on your own, but I'm worried that it might not be safe." Or, "There just isn't enough time to do that before dinner." Or other similar comment that helps the child to see your concern, which are most likely about health or safety or the impact on other people. Once everyone's ideas for solutions have been shared, all are evaluated, and one strategy or solution is selected and agreed on. Everyone needs to agree that the new approach or behavior will be used the next time something similar comes up. Perhaps making amends is part of the solution. The main thing is that the children were participants fully in exploring the problem and finding a solution. Remember to congratulate them on working it out. I know this sounds like a pretty tall order for most families. For children who don't have much experience in thinking feelings and problems through together, and for parents who most likely have provided solutions and discipline. So here are some final tips and reminders. Stay neutral. Avoid setting up bully victim roles or having favorites in the family. Remember that sometimes kids fight to get their parents involved. So try not to get involved. Let them sort it through. But if there is imminent danger, don't talk. Act to make sure no one gets hurt, and then talk about it with everyone later after everyone has calmed down. This is a considerably different way, but when the kids help to problem solve about conflicts or misbehavior, they improve their thinking skills. They become better at listening to others. They build their own self-esteem, and they strengthen relationships. As Mr. Rogers wrote, the closer we can come to understanding what our children might be feeling, the more empathic towards them we can become. Instead of taking children's misbehavior personally, we can begin to understand why it might be happening. And that kind of understanding invariably leads to finding caring ways to help support absolutely everyone in your family. Be well, take care of yourselves, and I hope your children will learn to problem solve more effectively with your help. Take care.